What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and this season has been brutal. We've had injuries across the board, we have bye weeks happening, and a lot of these teams have holes to fill. So today we're going to talk through my 7 must-buy trade targets for Week 6 of the fantasy football season. These are buy candidates for all shapes and sizes, whether you are 4-1, 5-0, looking to make your great team even better, or if you're 1-4, scrambling, looking for a spark, this is the video for you. As always, if you enjoy, leave a like, subscribe if you're new. And our first trade target here is more of a luxury buy for the better teams. If you are 4-1, 5-0, I think Nico Collins is a great buy. Now, how I come about this list of players is I do my rest of season rankings. Now on Tuesday nights, these come out. My rest of season rankings over on the Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. You can, of course, find them in the description and the comment section down below, right? Our first target is Nico Collins. If you have a question of would I prefer Nico Collins or would I prefer a Emeka Ibuka, that is going to be in the rest of season rankings, so you can use them in your trade talks. Now, I look around the industry. I compare to other rest of season ranking sites. I compare to just kind of the overall sentiment on Twitter. Just a good buddy of ours on the channel, Matt Harmon, does I believe a segment called the Panic Meter. I like to see, he does like a post pretty much of who is everybody panicking on. And you can kind of just look around the space and see who are we're kind of now in this space of fantasy football. This is like a weird rant, but it's week 6. I'm going to ramble sometimes here. There is almost this echo chamber where everybody has the same buys. Everyone has the same sells. And some of the buys we're going to talk about today are the buys that everybody has. But Nico Collins is somebody I've seen around the space as a sell. Now, this is from Chris O'Brien. This is no shot at Chris Bryan. Everyone can have their own buys, their own sells. But this tweet, 1.2K likes, tons of likes. People are enjoying the sentiment of selling Nico Collins. And I'm going to tell you, I think I would be buying anybody who's selling Nico Collins if I am in a position to eat a bye week. He goes into a bye week this week. I think buying players on buy is almost always good practice, just buying at a discount. They're not scoring points for your team. Is the Nico Collins owner 1-4? Is he 2-3? Does he need a win? Maybe you can get him at a little bit of a discount. Now, the Texans have played over the last 2 weeks. The Ravens defense, which was awful. And then before that, they played a bad team as well. I can't think of off the top of my head. But they are in a spot now where this offense is moving and grooving. Yeah, Tennessee Titans the week before that. The 3 weeks before that, though, they had the Rams, Tampa Bay, Jacksonville. So those are all really good defenses. They had a new offensive coordinator, a new offensive line. They were getting in the groove of things. Do you want to downplay them now finding their tempo versus bad defenses, or is this going to be a sign of more things to come? For me, I think it's a sign of better things to come for this offense. They're figuring things out. CJ Stroud had a much better time to throw. I think they're just getting into what this offense is going to look like for the rest of the season. And to me, that's really exciting. CJ Stroud is looking good. And Nico Collins, despite only running 70% of the routes last week, because they killed the Ravens so bad they sat the starters late in the game, he still had about 16 PPR points last week. I think on the other side of the bye week, he is going to be just fine as a top 12 wide receiver rest of season in my rankings. And if you can buy him a little bit low here, I would, right? Can you upgrade from a Deebo Samuel, Jalen Waddle, Cortland Sutton, and jump up a tier to Nico Collins? Those are the kind of moves I would be looking to make. Now, when we go to the trade database over on Fantasy Calc, this is how we do these videos. We're going to go 1 quarterback leagues, 10 to 14 team leagues, 2 to 3 assets in the trade, half and full PPR, and see what Nico Collins is getting traded for out on the open market. I guess I have to input it again, but the idea here is that there are fantasy football trades happening. It's like 5 million trades from real leagues or whatever. So we can actually see like what these players are getting traded for in real leagues. Now, not all of these are going to be realistic. I make sure to only highlight the ones I think could actually happen in your league. Can you do Pollard and Quentin Johnston? I know that the trade count here has this heavily favoring Nico, but if somebody's truly down bad at 1-4 and they need the points, I think that's actually maybe doable. Bill and Zay Flowers, I love Bill, but Bill and Zay Flowers for Nico, absolutely. Now, this is more of that, can you upgrade Deebo to get to Nico style trades? That's about as much as I would pay. Deebo plus Kenneth Walker to make an upgrade here, especially in a start 7. So this is going to be only 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, where you are heavily incentivized to make the best starting lineup possible. I think that is where consolidating and tearing up to Nico makes a lot of sense. I'm not doing this Gibbs deal, to be honest. Dak and Waddle. Honestly, yeah, I don't think this is going to work. What's the best quarterback I would add to Waddle to get to Nico? I would probably, but this is what I was talking about. Like, can you tier up from Waddle to get to Nico? Waddle plus, I'm trying to think. Would I do Waddle and Baker Mayfield for Nico? Like, let's say you have Baker and like Justin Fields. I think I would, but that's again pretty close. Kamara and Devontae Smith, easy. And I think that's probably going to do it for our trade scenarios here. Pickens and Chase Brown, easily. Yeah. Easily. Josh Jacobs for Nico Collins in a piece. I think I would do that as well. But I'm not really crazy about selling Jacobs, and I'm not crazy about selling Kamara. But in terms of like value, I would probably prefer Nico's side here. But I don't really like selling Jacobs or buying Kamara in these deals. So something to definitely think about is that, like, even if you're winning a deal, don't take on a player you don't want, is kind of my like 2 cents in there. But our second buy candidate here is Derrick Henry. Now, I talked about earlier the obvious buys. This is one of the most obvious buys in fantasy football. It's almost too obvious. Everybody out there is trying to buy Derrick Henry. Every person who sits in front of a mic and talks about fantasy football is probably telling you to buy Derrick Henry. But I will say, I looked around the rest of season rankings. He's, I believe, my RB10 rest of season. I'm seeing him like RB14, RB15, RB16 in some of these rest of season rankings. And if you can buy him for like a mid to high end RB2 price tag, I think you should, especially if the team who drafted Derrick Henry is in a tough spot. Why not? He's at 11.9 points per game right now. He's out to the top 24 running backs. He's been super disappointing. Lamar Jackson's hurt. This Ravens team is in shambles. All the vibes around Derrick Henry is bad right now. This is probably the most obtainable he's going to be. Now, I will say, if the Derrick Henry owner is being stubborn, he's 1-4, but he's not selling Derrick Henry, or he wants an arm and a leg, you definitely can say, all right, never mind then, because he has a tough week this week against the Rams, potentially without Lamar Jackson. So it could be another really bad game for Derrick Henry, and then he's on bye. So if that owner is then 1-5 with Derrick Henry on bye, he might be cheaper next week. But there could also be a scenario where Lamar Jackson plays in this game, and opponent matchup doesn't really matter that much with a guy like Derrick Henry, where he can just go for 20-plus PPR points in any given game, and then all of a sudden he heads into this bye week riding high. So I could see it either way, but I'm just saying, if the guy's being stubborn, then just let him be stubborn. But with Derrick Henry, I think at the very least why I like him as a buy is I'm pretty confident he's not washed. And every year that Derrick Henry goes past age 30 and we all show up to an NFL season is a higher chance that he's just washed. It's what it is. Like, Father Time is undefeated. I believe, Peyton Manning had his 50-plus touchdown season, and the direct season after that, he got bent for Brock Osweiler. That is me talking out of my ass, but I think I'm correct on that one. Like, sometimes the guy comes down, he's just not the same dude, right? Allen Robinson on the Rams, it's just, we've seen it a billion times with these guys. Sometimes they're just not the same player after an offseason, after getting older. But with Derrick Henry, he's still 7th in the NFL among running backs with 25 or more carries in terms of explosive run rate. He has a higher explosive run rate than Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Christian McCaffrey, all the top running backs. He's still breaking off long runs. Last year, I could only find 2 instances where he went over 21 miles per hour. He hit 21-plus miles per hour in week 1. He's still fast. He's still explosive. Is he getting stuffed at the line a little bit more? Sure, but that's kind of the boom-bust nature of what Derrick Henry brings. I think he's still that guy. I think that we're going to get Lamar Jackson back here, and then after the bye week, right, even if it's a down week versus the Rams this week, coming out of the bye, you're going to get Lamar Jackson back, and then you get Chicago and Miami. 2 defenses who are allowing the 4th and 5th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. I think that he comes out of the bye absolutely flying. Now, on top of that, the reason why I'm pretty firm in still believing in the Ravens is they still have a 40% chance at the playoffs despite being 1-4, which I will say, that's a good thing to look at for all of you guys out there that might be 1-4 or 0-5 down bad. I used to have a graphic. I wish I still had it. I couldn't find it, but it's pretty much like a chart of like looking at your percent chance to make the playoffs based on your record. And even if you're 1-4, you'd be shocked. You probably still have about like a 20%, 25% chance to make the playoffs. It just comes down to whether or not you're going to give up or actually fight back, make moves, and try and grit your way to a playoff berth, especially in these leagues where it's like 6 out of 12 teams make it. If you can just fight to 500 and win a points for tiebreaker, then anything from there can happen once you're in the playoffs. So I will say that's a PSA. Go out there. Don't throw in the towel yet. It's only week 6. Try and fight back. And even the Ravens who are 1-4 are the betting favorites to win the AFC North right now. So I'm kind of riding with Vegas. I think the Ravens are going to be competitive. I think they're going to maybe even rush Lamar back to win against the Rams this week. We'll see. But then on the other side of the bye week, I think they're going to get Lamar back, and they should go on a run. Like, the Ravens are just a blue chip stock that you can kind of set and forget to being a good football team. And I know they're 1-4, but I still think that they have the DNA to go out there and be better. Now, in terms of what people are paying for Derrick Henry, this one I'm really curious about. I wonder if he still holds a lot of value. Wow. Again, I want to definitely try and find the ones that are close here, but like, I would do all of these without any thought. Like Pittman plus easily, adding to Kenneth Walker. I like Kenneth Walker, but I'll add to Kenneth Walker to get there. Yeah, I mean, I'm doing all of these. I'm not selling James Cook for him. Sutton and Pollard, and the calc has this one close. Wow. I mean, easily, yes. Wow. Okay, so that's about what I do. Marvin Etienne for Derrick Henry in a start 8. Start 8, half PPR. That's about even. That's about as much as I would pay, and it would come down to what my team looked like. Like, if I have flex depth and I don't need Marv, I actually don't hate that. Devontae for Derrick Henry pretty easily. Ramondre, that's just, I mean, get out of here. Saquon for Derrick Henry and Jacobs, easily. I don't think that's on the table, though. Again, not really looking to sell Jacobs, but Jacobs to get to Henry with a piece, I'd be open to it if I needed, especially in a start 9 like this. Honestly, shout out to this guy. In a start 9 where you have a 2 wide receiver, 3 flex situation, or wait, no. Am I reading this wrong? Oh, no, this is the one, start 8. But still, even in a start 8, I think Derrick Henry and Jacobs is probably the move there. And then nothing else really sticks out. Ladd and a Nick Chubb, that's just not even... Wow. McCaffrey for Derrick Henry and CeeDee Lamb. Putting your nuts on the table. I probably do, but I would be sick about this one. That's a really tough one. Would I do CD? If I needed wins right now, I would do CD straight up for Derrick Henry without losing much sleep. Now, our next trade candidate is a repeat from a few weeks ago, Breece Hall. He's yet to have a blow-up game. He's the RB22 with 13 points per game. Whoever has him is probably a little bit frustrated, but I think there are better days ahead. And I'm into the idea of buying low. He plays the Broncos this week, so there isn't... Some of these guys are obvious buy lows, right? When they're playing against the Cowboys or something, it's like, all right, swoop in, go buy him, whatever. But like, everybody knows that. Nobody wants Breece heading into this game versus the Broncos. If you want, you can buy him after the Broncos game, but I think everyone's going to be aware that he then gets Carolina and Cincinnati, two much easier defenses here. Now, the issue for Breece Hall has been game script, where the Jets just get the doors blown off him early, and then they're playing garbage time football, which doesn't really help Breece. The issue right now is he's only running about 40% of the routes, and Isaiah Davis is running 40% of the routes. But I think that we're going to see it. When a team is 0-5, they're going to try and make changes and ride other players, and we've seen it before in the past. I believe this was 2022 with Breece Hall and Michael Carter, which is funny that Michael Carter is now relevant on the Cardinals, but we fought these same wars a while ago. Breece Hall has just kind of figured out over his career that sometimes coaching staffs love to underestimate him, and then he plays really well, and he gets a better role down the line, which I think is what we're going to see. I think we're going to see, instead of a 40-40 split, more of like a 60-20 split in terms of the routes, and then that would be massive for Breece Hall. Also, in terms of the game script thing, because of the routes, we're not benefiting from that garbage time late, and then because this team is so bad, he's not getting the rushing yards early. But I will say that a lot of it has been like turnover luck. I'm not saying the Jets are going to be a good football team, but like getting the doors blown off in the first 3 quarters isn't going to happen every single week. Breece Hall actually kind of costed himself a touchdown where they got inside the red zone and then Breece Hall fumbled. I believe the Jets are like one of the only teams that haven't forced a turnover. They haven't recovered any of their own fumbles. It's just like one of the more unlucky 5-game stretches ever. I'm not saying that the Jets aren't going to get the first overall pick, but I think we're going to get more competitive game scripts than what it's been over the last few weeks. And if that's the case, Breece Hall has been so good that's why I'm so into Breece Hall right now. He hasn't scored a rushing touchdown yet. We're still waiting for it, but he has just been so good. This is the best that Breece Hall has been since pre-ACL tear, which to me is really exciting and somebody that could be a league winner down the stretch of this season. We had here, since week 4, Braylon Allen goes down, 33 touches to Breece for 8 for Isaiah Davis. Breece Hall explosive rush rate by season, 15% in 2022, then 6.7%. I believe that was after the ACL tear, then 9.1%, and now he's all the way back up to 19.7%. So he's all the way back to pre-ACL Brees right now. Right now among 2025 running backs from the Buffalo Jet fan, he's third in yards per carry, first in explosive runs, fifth in receiving yards. And the run blocking has been amazing. Like, that's also the exciting part, is this offensive line with Armin Membu and Olu Fashanu and Tittman up front and Simpson up front has been the fifth best run block win rate unit by ESPN this season. It's just that their defense has been so bad and their turnover luck has been so bad, right? Like, they've been fumbling on kickoff returns. They've been fumbling, like Breece Hall has fumbled this last game, and it's just been a really tough swing where they're not in situations where they can just run the ball. But again, I think we're going to get a little bit more competitive here. Like, I'm not saying it's going to get a whole lot more competitive, but more competitive in the spirit of, like, the same way that the Browns run Judkins a ton, despite being a bad football team. I think we're going to see something similar for the Jets. I'm not saying their defense is going to get better, but the Cowboys' offense blowing the doors off the Jets' defense was predictable. I think here, coming soon, we're going to see things get just a little bit closer. Like, if we can just get some of that turnover luck to fall back in the Jets' favor, then we can get some decent game scripts for Breece Hall. And you also have the upside, maybe he gets traded to a good team. I will say I'd be shocked. I wouldn't buy into the hope of, can he go to the Chiefs? Can he go to the Chargers or something? I would be stunned. Just given the Braylon Allen injury and just how stubborn these teams are on, like, this Jets team would just rather collect a comp pick in the offseason instead of trading Breece Hall for like a 5th round pick. Like, it's just the running back market just isn't enough for a team to make something compelling for Breece Hall. Now, in terms of what he's going for on the market, let's see. Are people into Breece Hall right now? You can sell Kamara McLaurin for Breece easily. Kincaid and Worthy, yes. I'd prefer Breece Hall to ETN straight up, but I do hate these moves of just like one running back for one running back. You're essentially just like playing heads up poker there. But I do prefer Breece in that situation. If I can sell Kyron for Breece plus, I would. I have Breece ahead of Kyron, so I actually kind of love that move. Again, can I do Kyron? That's like about even. I probably still prefer Breece, but that's about even. So I'll probably cool off on that. And then in terms of, like, let's find one more. Like, Sutton for Breece, this is just like, do I need a running back or receiver? But I will take Breece in that situation. Then our fourth trade candidate here is one. I'm curious on what the trade database will say about this one. But this is somebody going to try and get too cute and make a cheap buck off of Rico Dowdle? Like, I do assume that there are like sell high videos that, Rico Dowdle had 200 rushing yards this past week. He was on the Cowboys and he was terrible last year. This is a flash in the pan. Go sell him. Well, you're not going to sell him for like the RB12 in price tag. Like, you're probably going to sell him for like the RB30. And at that price, I'm buying. Like, Rico Dowdle was really good. Chuba Hubbard is still banged up. I took this screenshot before we had this news, but he didn't practice today, Chuba Hubbard. So Chuba Hubbard's status is up in the air, and Rico Dowdle in week 5 was really good. 234 total yards, most by any player. This is via Datarama here. 10 missed tackles forced, tied for the most. 4 15-plus yard runs, second most. 157 yards after contact, the most we've seen in a single week this season. Like, Rico Dowdle was really good. I think that he's going to retain a role even when Hubbard is back. The Panthers win this game, a team that is looking for wins. They're looking for an identity, and I don't know why they would banish Rico Dowdle after kind of finding something here with Rico Dowdle. He won them this football game. They were down, 17-0 to the Dolphins here, and then they pull out that win because the Dolphins couldn't tackle their running back. And the good news is he gets Dallas and then the Jets these next 2 weeks. The Cowboys are allowing the 6th most, and the Jets are allowing the 9th most fantasy points to running back. So he gets 2 dream matchups here while Chuba Hubbard is still banged up. And again, if somebody wants to get too cute and they have enough running back depth, and they're like, you know what, can I sell Rico Dowdle at RB30 price tags and get like a fun upside receiver on my bench? Go get him. Like, I really do think, like, Rico Dowdle has, like, it's crazy to say this, he has league winning upside. Like, if he can take over this backfield and it wasn't a fluke, and he can take advantage of bad opponents and be decent, like, he could be an RB2 rest of season here. What can we do here? What can we do? So downgrading Sutton to Pearsall and Dowdle. No, Pearsall is banged up. I'll probably pass on that. But I would do something like this. Like even if Charbonnet is not involved, I think I would do Addison for Dowdle straight up. Pearsall for Dowdle straight up. I think I would if I needed running back help and Pearsall was just collecting dust. But that's as much as I would pay. Is what I will give an added caveat. That's as much as I would pay as Pearsall. I think if you can get out underneath like injured players, it's not a terrible idea. Keenan Allen for Dowdle. If Keenan Allen wasn't going in my lineup every week, this is a start 7.5 PPR. I actually would do Keenan Allen for Dowdle. Would I do? I mean, Dart for Dowdle very easily. Would I do McLaurin for Dowdle and a receiver? Pretty easily, yes. So I think, dude, he's a throw-in in these deals. That's all I'm saying. If you can get a deal done, even if I'm like the higher thing, right? If you want to downgrade and then net Rico Dowdle on top, I think this is like a really good blueprint of you downgrade. To me, like Terry and Jacoby are like in the same tier at this point. Who knows when Derry McLaurin's going to play, when he'll be effective, whatever. Kobe Myers is kind of like a mid wide receiver you can put in your flex spot, but then you get Rico Dowdle on top that you can bank on for real running back points right now. Our 5th and 6th trade candidate here is both Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, and here's why. I don't know how this is going to be received. I will say Rashee Rice is just like, when we talk about like the most obvious buy candidates, he's very obvious. He comes back next week. You could have bought for much cheaper weeks ago, but if there still is a window where the guy who has him has been stubborn and he's 1-4 and he can't afford to really wait for Rashee Rice, go and swoop in. But let's lock in on Xavier Worthy here for a second. So I think that he is a really good buy. Now he has only played he's played like 2.5 games. So I'll sit here and say his 1.84 yards per run I think is just tough on a small sample off of injury, but this entire receiver room is bad. Travis Kelce, 1.44 yards per run is not good. Not a single wide receiver in this room has a 2 or better yards per out run, yet this is a team that lost to the Jaguars, has dropped a couple games here, is fighting for their lives to find wins, and they're riding on the back of Patrick Mahomes. They have the 9th most passing yards in the league, so they're actually passing the ball a bunch. And they have one of the highest usage rates for their wide receivers in the NFL. And that's despite throwing to guys for most of these games like Marquise Brown and Tyquan Thornton and Juju Smith-Schuster and all of these kind of like random scrubs here. We can see this from a Hayden Winks chart. They're still 7th in wide receiver usage, which I just think speaks volumes for how much work there is for both Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice to kind of step into here, where this is a team that is finding themselves in trailing game scripts. They can't just eke out the boring wins they did last year. They have to pass the ball. They're trying to. They've just been deficient of their actual playmakers. Now we have Xavier Worthy ramping back up from his injury. We have Rashee Rice coming back here soon. And I think that once you plug those guys both into this environment, right, top 10 in passing yards, top 10 in wide receiver usage, we are going to get fireworks from these guys, where I have Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy both as top 24 wide receivers rest of season. We look at Xavier Worthy, he's still ramping back up. This is from the Fantasy Life Utilization Report, where he goes from 71% of the routes in week 4 to 80% in week 5. We're still hoping for like 90% plus, but in both of these back-to-back games, he's been at a 20% plus target share with a 13 plus ADOT, meaning that he's not getting the gadget roll, which isn't a bad thing for him. We're in these spots now where Mahomes has to push the ball downfield, and if you can get 20% plus target share on a 13 plus yard ADOT, and some of these can start connecting, that's going to be high efficiency usage for Xavier Worthy in a good offense attached to Patrick Mahomes. We just need more routes. We need more of these connections to happen. And then there's going to be, especially when Rashee Rice comes back, he starts taking some of the attention underneath. I really do think that this Chiefs passing offense is really going to go once Worthy is back. And I want to fully lean into Worthy here. This is a blurb. Shout out to Matt Harmon, Reception Perception. Go check it out. He's doing these in-season notebooks now, which is really exciting. He's doing like pretty much charting in terms of route win rates during the season. Like, that's a massive deal. Usually he just does it after the season, but he took a look at Xavier Worthy last week, so week 4, and he said his updated outlook on Xavier Worthy is that he may always have some flaws as an NFL player just because of his size. However, he's starting to build a strong case that he can be a highly successful player despite some of those warts against press coverage. As always, Tell me what the player can do, not what he can't do. The guy we saw in week 4 enjoyed a multifaceted pre-snap role, was unleashed as a downfield receiver, and worked on outbreakers rather than over the middle of the field. That will perfectly complement Rashee Rice when he returns. Best of all, Worthy turned in a fantastic 90.9% success rate versus zone coverage. In his role, that's what he needs to be in order to get high leverage targets on a consistent basis. Worthy is looking like a Brandon Cooks type of player at the NFL level. And to me, that's very exciting. For a shaky year 2 breakout candidate, I think that he has actually shown a lot despite limited usage. It's truly just a matter of getting healthy and ramping up to a full route share, which I think we're going to see here in the coming week. So I am curious, what do you have to pay to get into the Xavier Worthy conversation? He's another one where if I can put him in the back end of deals, I would. I mean, got it for Worthy in an instant. I don't hate down tiering from Pickens to Worthy, but that's not enough of a plus there. Would I do ETN for Worthy and Walker? I would. I know ETN was a sell high for me last week. I'm not. I'll probably retract that. I'm not like dying to sell him, but I would sell him for that price. Scatterbo for Worthy, I probably wouldn't. Henderson and Jawan Jennings to get to Worthy. I don't hate that. That's about as much as I would pay. That's as much as I would pay. If you just want to get out. Oh. I don't know what's going on with the camera there, but if you did want to just get out, I wonder how many times that's happened here. I hope not many. Let me know in the comments if my camera's gone out more than just that one time. It is tough because the turnaround time on these in-season videos are so quick. I don't really have time to watch these back and edit them, so they just go out. What else? Can we find anything else? Oh, get out of here. If you can turn your Jameson Williams into Xavier Worthy, do that ASAP. Even if to add a small little teensy piece to Jameson Williams, ASAP. Woody Marks for Xavier Worthy, easy. T. Higgins for it. If you can do T. Higgins, Jameson Williams, any of those, like, you're talking guys like the wide receiver 30s that, like, used to be sexy, easily for Xavier Worthy. And I will say we did have Rashee Rice here as our 6th target as well. But again, we don't really have to talk about Rashee Rice much more. But we can pick out a couple trades here. What's his price? Because I imagine his price has been slowly creeping up every single week. Would I do Bucky for Rashee? If I needed wide receiver help, I would have them about even here. Bill and Pittman for Rashee Rice. Wow. God. I hate when these are too close. You got to have a lot of conviction in Rashee Rice to do this one. I would have to see the rest of the team. I lean Rashee Rice, but that is not easy. Wow, Worthy for Rice. I will say, in case if any guys are curious, I do have Rice over Worthy rest of season. Jaden Daniels and Pittman for Rashee Rice. I got to be honest, fellas. I'm not going to put Jaden Daniels in the sell high portion of tomorrow's video, but I am curious how you guys think. I downgraded Jaden Daniels in my rest of season rankings. I am starting to wonder, like, he might be a fine quarterback, like a good quarterback, but I don't know if he, we probably anointed him into the Josh Allen Lamar tier a year or two too early. And if you're getting elite production from your other quarterbacks, I don't hate that at all. This is another one of those tier up from Debo, add Pollard very easily. I would do that. But the price on the brick has absolutely gone up when it comes to Rashee Rice. All right, then our 7th buy low candidate. And this one's just a throwaway. This is, I have in my notes, it's Ted McMillan again. I talk about him every week. His price is still super low. He's in like the wide receiver 30s. I still have him in the wide receiver 2 range. I get it's been frustrating. I get it's been bad. But he's been as good as you could be. He's just not scoring touchdowns. I think this Panthers offense is going to get better. When we look at this tweet from Jacob Gibbs, Tedero McMillan has accounted for about 35% of his team's total receiving yards. That is a top 11 number in this metric since 1990, which is pretty crazy. He is 9th. That's ahead of Mecca Egbuka and Malik Neighbors last year. And he makes a really good point that the offense has sucked. That's now baked into McMillan's price. Malik Neighbors' offense sucked last year. Brian Thomas' offense sucked last year as well. I think we're going to see Tedero McMillan finally emerge here soon, and he gets a really nice matchup, I believe, against the Cowboys this week, which is perfect. this breakout game is coming one of these days. Why not this week? I would be buying Tetairoa McMillan if the owner in your league is starting to freak out. He still has 8+ targets in every single game. He's just got to find a touchdown here soon, and we can get a spike week to get him into a space where he is now a top 24 wide receiver. In terms of what he's going for, I would sell Kenneth Walker for Tetairoa McMillan in a piece. I probably would. Would I do QJ for Tetairoa McMillan? I have him in the same tier, but I would sell QJ for him. Dobbins for Tetairoa straight up, I would do. McMillan or McLaurin, even if you want to add a piece to McLaurin to get to Tetairoa, I would. I prefer Tet to Marv. Hubbard for Tetairoa McMillan feels like a great way to get out from under. I'd be looking to get out from underneath Chuba right now. Even if to add like a small piece to Chuba Hubbard, I'd be willing to do that as well. But that is going to do it for today's video. That is 7 must-buy trade candidates for Week 6 of the fantasy football season. As always, you can find my rest of season rankings down below in the description and the comment section down below. I will have my Week 6 rankings out tomorrow, and I'll update them again on Sunday for the Patreon. But I will say, if you're already supporting there or you're not, who knows, go out there. Make sure, I don't know why I have that. Go out there. Make sure you're subscribed. Only about half of you guys that watch these videos are subscribed. Helps me out a ton if we can get these subscriber numbers up, especially at this point in the year. Subscribers start to slow down a little bit. So if you've been watching these videos and you scroll down and you see that you're not subscribed, go subscribe, leave a like, all that good stuff. As always, I will see y'all in the next one.
Stones, like this froze.